Hey, welcome. This is The Process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is the last video with my uh, late June PPR rankings here with uncertainty. I'm just going to kind of take you through uh, kind of how I do this. This is kind of a process video because things will change between now and probably when you're getting serious about drafting uh, August and probably early September. But uh, some are addicted like me, and we're currently in drafts now. I'm in 6 slow drafts right now, so I'll probably be on about 50 teams by the end of the year, maybe more uh, as well. Anyway, I'm always drafting. I've been drafting since March or April, I guess. Continue. I usually do best ball pretty much early April and May, then kind of after the rookie drafts, and then I start serious with redraft. I only have one dynasty league that I'm in two. I think my partner Dennis at the Science of Fantasy Football podcast yanked me into a fantasy dynasty thingy or something. I don't know. I'm not much into dynasty, but trying to learn a little bit here or there. I mainly redraft is kind of what I do. Okay, so I've talked about drafting landscape. Did that video, talked about uncertainty, overlays, power rankings, these kind of things. In the last video, and then this is the final in the trilogy here, and I'll probably update in July, probably late July. Anyway, I have a bunch of tables that you can find on this article on the website. And the first are specific to position. So I have each position, all the players in the position, and they're sorted from high to low. I established uncertainty levels. You can find out how to look at that. I have my rankings from high to low, 100 to 0. Player name, team, position, bye week, strength of schedule. I think I've talked a little bit about that, but anyway, it is a highly theoretical, because we don't know the future, prediction of the toughness of the season, as it were, to the position, because you'll have the NFL schedules out, and teams had different defenses and their different specialties. They're good, they're bad, depending on the defense. And of course, the trick is we don't really know. All we have is last year's data. So the strength of schedule was really dicey until 3 or 4 games in to the 2022 season. And then we'll start having some actual concrete data that we'll build on, and we'll get, of course, better as the season goes on. So I, in general, group that strength schedule into tough versus easy, right? So you kind of, uh, you know, can figure that out. That's probably a tiebreaker if there is such a situation where I just can't make the difference for whatever reason. I usually can, but if I can't, then I can do strength of schedule. If I'm going to do streaming, sometimes I will do late quarterback streaming or tight end streaming, then it is good to know the bye weeks and what is the prediction about the one uh, tight end or quarterback, whatever, and it's bye week, and then who's playing that week. That's a part of your streaming stable, whatever player or players. I usually just do two quarterbacks, two tight ends. Some people do more. Depends on the bench, right? Bench level. So you probably want to have a good bye week replacement that should have a nice game to you could collect on while your main uh, tight end, quarterback, etc., is off on the bye week. At least that's the theory here. Overlay potential is also listed in the positions, and I've talked about that so you can kind of get a feel for what players may be beneficial to draft at their current ADP, which ones may be avoiding at certain ADPs, that kind of thing. So you can check that. That's more detailed. So I'm just kind of going through and letting you see kind of how I flow through it. I will look at this data multiple times. Here's the DSTs, Defense Special Teams, uh, based on my rankings, which are got to be preliminary. I'm pretty much I guess if you had to think about tiers, Buffalo, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, the Colts, the Saints, maybe New England are pretty close together. Denver could be there or in the second tier. And the best one might be Denver to take, or maybe San Francisco. You might get a bargain there. Uh, the most uncertain of that group, I think, is the Saints, and I believe that's the quarterback situation. And the offense always puts a strain on the defense, and vice versa here. So you can look and start picking some targets for your defenses. If you're a streamer like I am, then don't draft one for the whole season. Then I would start looking at week one matchups and see what that does. I think Cleveland actually plays Jacksonville. That's been one that I've been picking up for week one, but we're all guessing at this point. I have picked up San Francisco just because they have fallen in some places below, I thought, their ADP. So those have been the two, I think, of the seven or eight that I've drafted, teams that I've drafted so far. Anyway, this is a way for you to start looking at things and just kind of go through it. I'll look at this a couple times, and if you look at it, then you start getting kind of a memorization thing happening. I don't say necessarily I memorize, but when you look at things and just kind of, if you've got a second here or there, just pull it up, look at it, say, well, that's interesting. Okay, that's ranked this way. So you just kind of start thinking. Kickers as well. Tucker is probably the top, but Tyler Bass is pretty good, and Matt Gay. Those are the top three kickers. And Baltimore, Buffalo, and Rams are expected to be pretty good in offense. So a lot of times, a lot of people pick kickers because of that. Be aware if you if you're especially in best ball, if you play kickers in best ball, sometimes kickers will get injured or dropped, and it's hard to keep track of some things. So it's going to be risky at times. I think if I've had to draft kickers, I've been drafting the Atlanta guy. I thought he was pretty good at the time I want to draft the kicker, which is probably the last pick. I'll wait and take a defense and then a kicker. I never take a defense early in a normal kind of PPR. Quarterbacks, people are, thinking Allen, Mahomes, Justin, Herbert are that's kind of the top three. Only thing I think Allen's going uh, too early. And notice his overlay potential very low. You're not going to get him at a bargain. In fact, the first bargain is probably Brady, maybe Trey Lance. I'd hate to wait that far. Brady, I'm actually picking up in a couple places. So if it's in a super flex league, then some of these other quarterbacks are in play as well. Tannehill, maybe some others. Just take a look, see what you think. Not a lot of bargains this year in quarterbacks. I think they've mispriced Allen and mispriced Brady a little bit, but Russell Wilson's tricky here. He's got a good schedule, easy, but it's not sure here. Be aware that people are drafting Stafford, but he's got a tough schedule. So it's Carr, Burrow, Murray. I guess if I have to draft an early quarterback, it's probably Justin Herbert. Just it's got tough, but it's not as tough as Allen and Mahomes. So, but they're really good. So I'm not sure SOS is really uh, viable here. Uh, the safest I think is Herbert and Allen, but so uh, overlay. I guess you're not gonna get a bargain, but I'd probably take Herbert over Allen just because the ADP is a little better. Okay, but there are some tricks here on the uncertainty levels. And here's some deeper ones. Running backs, you know, I like Christian McCaffrey there, pretty good, but you're not going to get any bargains, him and Eckler. You might get Harris. I think Harris could be the fourth pick. Cook, Mixon, Swift. I really like all those in that second tier, and I think they're have an opportunity to bargain. Swift has a very easy schedule, so does Henry. So those are some things I'm looking at. Cook, I'm a little bit tricked just his injury. I've got him as a above average risk. I'm sorry, uncertainty. No such thing as risk in things. Bad job. So you could take a look at that again. That's just kind of me strolling through here. If there's a decision, I will default here, and I think looking at strength of schedule, overlay, uncertainty, my rankings, I think you get a pretty good picture at least now. We don't know, right, everything, right? The pecking orders and things and injuries. Who knows what's going to go on? But I think there's some opportunities for some overlays and some pretty good running backs this year. So, stay awake to those and see what you got. Okay. Just the next wave here, the next block. I think I divided it not by any tier system, just breaking out the the figures when I'm making these figures in the PowerPoint. Just looks better to me. So I randomly, I don't know, 27, 28. whatever. Just nothing meant by how I put, for instance, Kareem Hunt versus Sanders. I don't see those guys, uh, necessarily too different from each other, that kind of thing. And again, I do like to think about the overlays here and see who could be a bargain and not. So there's some interesting plays out there, and that continues as well. And you can use this as references. Tight ends, I think Kelsey and Andrews are to me the top tier. I see Pitts as somebody, and then and then Waller I consider very high for uncertainty. In fact, the safest to me is Andrews. Okay, I have drafted Andrews probably a little bit more than Kelsey, but I would turn Kelsey down because I think they can be a bargain under certain conditions here. Pitts can be as well, and then you could look at the breaks here. Schultz is another one. I think he's got the highest tight end with the lowest uncertainty. Goddard is low in uncertainty, but they both have tough schedules. So Hawkinson's pretty low uncertainty, but he's got a very easy schedule. So I've actually drafted him as well. So just depending on that, I think past maybe Ertz, Grosecki, some of that, then you're starting to get, oh, I better draft two of these and stream them. So late tight end streaming is something that I do and would definitely recommend. Probably about Knox. Notice the big gap from Knox to Henry. I think at that point, I think if you're grabbing people like Grosecki, Kimmett, Knox, then you probably should grab another one of those based on the strength of schedule, right? That kind of thing. So I would definitely think about that and the uncertainty. Here's some more tight ends here. Wide receivers, I think they're closer than people think, folks. Tough schedule for the top two, but they're, should pretty much be solid for any kind of uncertainty. You're not going to get them at a bargain. I think CeeDee Lamb could be a bargain. Evans could be a bargain. And then there's that next group, Allen, Deontay Johnson, Higgins, Pittman, Waddle, Moore, Cooks. Those all have pretty good potential to get bargains on. Some of them have. Waddle has a tough schedule. So does Tyreek Hill because they're on the same team. And that could be a little I wouldn't draft but one of those. If I took Hill, I would take Waddle. I just not sure how that's going to play. I really don't. What else? So I like to use this and think about things. I've been getting Michael Thomas. Has a nice schedule. Bargain. Just like he's so uncertain that I don't even know how to rate him. So that's the only issue with him. You don't know what you're getting there. So anyway, thinking about that and how you approach this, here's the next wave of wide receivers. So I just kind of go through and mix and match, think about things. But usually I've got the draft landscape. I'm thinking about my draft pick. I'm thinking about how I should play it. Am I going to emphasize wide receivers, running backs? What's the draft landscape saying? How's the overlay potential? I'm sometimes I kind of have a clear idea of what I want to do, and sometimes it's unclear. So you just need, I think, be thinking, and I think flexibility is the biggest factor. You don't just because, oh, I'm going to do this, well, and maybe things change, right? Drafts can be tricky sometimes, right? Average draft pick is ADP is average. Sometimes you could be in some really interesting leagues. People just go way off the reservation there, and you don't know what's going on. So be thoughtful about how you approach that. Here's some more data and whatnot. So you can use this. Okay. Next thing I wanted to do is in this basically just figures here, list of figures, this article. This is more for you to figure out than me because I've done it. This is my team level. So I've got the team, the position, the player, and then my ranking from 100 to 0, high to low, and I've colorized green to red. I put it as high, above average, below average uncertainty, and low uncertainty. So the safety is going to the right, high uncertainty, less safety is to the left of a player. And then there's, like I said, just my ranking if you want to break it down. So I've sorted by ranking. So you're saying, well, what do you do with this? Well, what I do is, especially in running backs and wide receivers, and sometimes tight ends, I look to see how I'm considering the pecking order, right? Is it close or is there a clear number one? So in Arizona, I see Connor as the clear choice. His handcuff is Williams, and then the handcuff to the handcuff is Benjamin. Okay, and it's a way different number. Usually, when a handcuff is about half the number one player, it's pretty clear he's the handcuff, right? So, and then Brown versus Hopkins, they're closer. People might say Hopkins should be higher, but I think, does he have some games he's going to have to miss anyway? That messes a little bit. By the way, this is not weekly value. This is yearly, my guess. I use consistency, or going to this year, as a way to up my game in a weekly level. And you should check all our weekly tools as well, because fantasy is a weekly level. But in drafting, you do need to consider how good they are and consistent, and then in just thinking about how they may be overall. And it gives you a place to start and see where you end up. So it tells me a little bit about the depth already in Arizona here. It's kind of a 1A, 1B, and Rondale Moore is pretty close. These are all higher uncertainty. AJ Green is safe, but not sure how much he's going to do this year. At 46, that's like below average. Anything below 50 is below average. Eh. But I think it gives you some clarity on where, at least I'm thinking, the team is looking right now. And this has no view on what could be happening, game one. But this is where we're at now. And again, you can look. Uh, Here's Atlanta, Patterson versus Williams. I don't know where people have them, but I see Patterson is a very solid choice here. But he's 80, and it's not like 100, which is, JT is 100. But, it's a good RB2 type for sure. Very unclear about who's catching the passes there. I guess Zacharias would be there, but Brian Edwards, I don't know. If I'm starting at 34, I'm not very confident about anything going on here. Obviously, I'm fairly high on Pitts here. Yep, there it is. Mariota at 19. There's Pitts' problem right there. And I know Ritter, the rookie quarterback, it would surprise me he takes over as Mariota flops. And you can just scroll through and look to see how I'm viewing. And again, this is just my view now, you know, doesn't mean this is how I'm viewing things in a month or two. And so I would go through here, use this, like for instance, people really love Davis. I see Diggs as a clear one. Davis is a two, and Crowder 3-4 type. So I do see a gap there, and I do see Davis should. In other words, there's nothing preventing him from being a nice wide receiver two type. I would not overpay for that though. People are going a little crazy here because he's not going to beat Diggs. Okay, it's just not going to happen here. Okay, so you can look and see where I'm thinking. Gives you certainly insight here. Carolina, I see more over Anderson and Marshall. I think the young wide receiver could take a move, and I just don't know about Robbie Anderson. I mean, he was so pitiful last year, and notice all of them high uncertainty. I mean, this could be a big train wreck here. Okay, so if I'm drafting Christian McCaffrey, I'm probably wanting Foreman and or Hubbard. See, I got them almost back to back. So yes, I've got Foreman a little bit safer, but Hubbard could be right in there. It could be a shared backfield if CMC's hurt again, and that won't be good for anybody. So just kind of keep those on speed dial if you do take CMC. Okay, so going through here, I think Komet here in Chicago, Montgomery should be, but Herbert's going to get his time at 62. He's a little bit above half, so that I like that. A solid RB3 potential. If I'm Montgomery, I'm definitely looking about in a deep bench. Yeah, I'm looking. Mooney should be the one and over Pringle. Pringle's half. So their problem is Fields. I got Fields at 67. It's not a great thing. Maybe he'll surprise us. So anyway, I could just drone on, but I'm gonna do Cincinnati and then I'm gonna stop. But just kind of showing you my process. So when I look at Cincinnati, what I see Burrow at 82. So he's probably a deeper QB1. He's a little bit inconsistent. Mixon and P. Ryan is maybe the handcuff, but there's Evans. So I'm not really sure which one of those two to pick up if I'm gonna try to back Mixon up. Again, there could be a split if Mixon's hurt, so that just be aware. Could be a 1A, 1B. If you got a deep bench and you're really sold on running in Cincinnati, then I guess you'll have to try to grab both. Peyton Hurst could be a surprise. I've just got him at 43, but he is a little bit safe. So he's definitely a streaming tight end two type that has some potential in a streaming situation. Chase and Higgins, I've almost got them on top of each other. But notice Boyd, he's at 70. So he's better than any kind of half scenario here. So it looks like a 1A, 1B, and a good 3 for Boyd. Uh, I would probably take Higgins. I would probably take Chase Boyd or Higgins Boyd. If I was going to get deep into that, I would probably want to take Boyd in there. He could be a nice play if one of those is injured. It would cost you too much to try to grab both. I mean, yeah, in best ball, if you can grab both, grab them. But yeah, I mean, if you grab all three, grab them. I think you can get two of those: Chase Boyd, Higgins Boyd. Okay, that's enough of me. I'm just giving you an example of my thinking as I go through. And here's what I do. I go back, and when I've got 10 or 15, 20 minutes, I'll just scroll through here and stop. Okay, what about this team? You do this enough time, and some of this kind of starts jumping out at you a little bit. And, and think about where your thinking is leading you. In other words, if you think Burrow is a 100, the best, then I've got him at 82. You know, I would say maybe you're right, but you better have some research or something to back your play, because that's way off where people are thinking right now, right? So this is a good landmark. If you think Chase is and Higgins or Higgins is one and Chase is two, that seems more could happen. Okay. If you think Boyd is better than Higgins, that's a little bit tricky. So I would ask you to think about your thinking and then come and look at this and say, well, where does Dr. Bush have him at? Oh, okay. Well, I wonder why he's there. Or maybe I need to do some research and look at some other, there's tons of pundits out there. Take a look out there. I mean, you can look at the ADP, that kind of gives you an average. I would definitely use places that are having sharper players, FFPC or Fantasy Pros or something. Get those ADPs. I wouldn't use ESPN or something. And that's you don't know who's voting on those ADPs. I like the more serious situations here. Anyway, that's another way to use this data as well. So uh, I would not be a slave to anything I've shown you. That would be foolish on your part. And I'm just telling you, come the end of August, some of this may have changed. I don't know if this is going to change, but there may be new things happening that we can't anticipate, right? It's uncertain. So, anyway, that's how I use my rankings. And if it seems a little loose, that's because that's my number one rule is flexibility. And I do not try to be blind to new information. The hardest thing in this place is when you get opinions. If you're too entrenched on opinions, you may miss new pieces of evidence. And we're all human, and that's a tough thing to do. People talk about planting flags. Can you imagine planting flags in June? What the F is going on with these people? Some of the best pundits squawk like that. I understand they do that to get clicks and their masters tell them to do that. I got that. But I would never say, well, I'm planting my flag here. If I plant a flag, it's a flagpole, it's a taffy or something. It's going to be waving in the wind. It's not very steady, and it's certainly not stable. And I can change it immediately. So be flexible, be nimble, be quick, right? So, because you don't want to get burned. Okay, this is Dr. Bush showing you some of the insides into my rankings and how I look at things. It's not everything I show you, but I'm showing you some things. Okay. We're having lots of fun with the science of fantasy football. We do have some podcasts and things we do every week. Check out lots of articles, weekly tools. It's all there, more than you would probably think. Thanks for listening, those few that are listening. Thank you. Yay. Good for you. Take care.